Around Grand River to get to the auditorium.
Yeah, I know.
It's so what is it?
Such a big show.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Well, I just saw actual thumbs up. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, February 7th, 2024. Our first order of business, as always, is public remarks. And as the public is following us all on home TV, Facebook, YouTube, and all the other channels, they'll have to submit their remarks later. We move to consideration of the agenda. I would like to propose a couple of items under new business, that the resolutions of appreciation and liaison appointments as sub-items 5A and B, if that's acceptable. And I'd also like to add an item on green theme presentations in that same grouping. And we can take those in any order. I think that's the order that they'll go longest, shortest to longest. Any other comments, additions, changes, deletions, improvements to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes in our packet from our December 6, 2023 meeting. Some of the most easy reading I've come across. I really think the minutes team is up in their game. And I didn't find something to correct, but I'll bet others have.
Not I.
I didn't either.
Wow, that's a perfect score.
Tom did offer some edits early on, so I want to give him some credit.
I see. Well, thank you. I was getting worried for a second there. So with no objections, the minutes are adopted as distributed. That moves us to new business, and as I suggested, first item under there is resolutions of appreciation. This is a tradition in the township and certainly on this commission to recognize members who are departing the commission. And since it's an honorary, I'll read the resolution, but I'll skip the tops and the bottoms, and we'll just work with the whereases that are there for us. So I know that Ned is watching at home. It's for you, Ned. Whereas Ned Jackson has been an active steward of both public and private land in Meridian Township for decades, and whereas Ned has served on the Environmental Commission since 2006, and whereas Ned has helped shape Meridian's policies to protect against pollution and support alternatives to phosphorus and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in coal tar-based asphalt sealants, and whereas Ned has been an advocate for bicycling trails, public transportation, non-motorized transportation, and Ned's been a regular volunteer at recycling events for over a decade, And whereas Ned has helped develop Meridian's climate sustainability plan, now therefore be it resolved by the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, as follows. The Environmental Commission, by means of this resolution, extends to Ned Jackson grateful thanks for his voluntary and exemplary efforts. And I'll ask for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted as read. I'll ask our vice chair to read our next resolution.
All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't read your resolution. There was a lot in there. Okay. So, whereas Kendra Grasecki has served on the Environmental Commission since 2021, and whereas Kendra has assisted in developing Meridian's climate sustainability plan, and whereas Kendra was instrumental in launching and leading the wetland education team, and whereas Kendra has participated in Meridian's Green Grant Review Team, and whereas Kendra has helped restore our local ecosystem by planting native species and removing invasive species, and whereas Kendra has regularly helped with Meridian Conservation Corps events, and whereas Kendra has helped to inspire and develop the Build Back the Buffer campaign and create a wetland brochure, wetland signage, and contractor mailing. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Environmental Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, as follows. The Environmental Commission of the Charter Township, by means of resolution, extends Kendra Grasecki grateful thanks for her voluntary and exemplary efforts.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted as read. Thank you very much. Next item I wanted to discuss a little bit is this commission benefits from a policy that the township developed 10 years ago or so of formally appointing members across commissions. So, for example, there's traditionally a member of the Environmental Commission who's seated on the Land Preservation Advisory Board, and a member who is appointed to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Other liaisons are less formal, where members participate in other boards and commissions. I also serve on the Planning Commission, so I serve that liaison function there. If I'm understanding correctly, there's the direction from the planning staff is that Ned's appointment to the BRA terminated with his resignation from the commission. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, yep.
All right. Well, and the other, I think, with Kendra's departure is the Land Preservation Advisory Board. So those are two issues that we need to decide. I don't know that there's urgency on Brownfield. They meet very irregularly, basically whenever there's an application, which is rare. But they have been involved in, for example, the Brownfield grants, loans that were used to clean up downtown Okemos. And by virtue of having our own Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, it made that process easier. There was also a Brownfield at Hazlitt and Marsh development area. There was a gas station and some other stuff. So it's great to have that connection between the Environmental Commission and Brownfield Redevelopment. We stuck Ned there because he's a chemist and he can understand what they were talking about. But that's not required. Do you have something you want to add?
One other consideration, if people are thinking about that, is they meet in the morning.
Thank you.
At 9 o'clock. I don't know if there's a virtual option or not.
Well, DDA and EDC tend to meet at 7 or 8 in the morning. For people, wow, that's outside of my ballpark.
Yeah.
So I guess what liaisons am I forgetting? We typically have an informal liaison to the Transportation Commission. I'm sorry?
One with planning as well?
Well, by virtue of serving on both, I tend to be that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So really, it's a question of the BRA and land preservation liaisons that is most pressing, I think. And I don't know, are you going to continue to serve on land preservation?
Yeah.
Now you've- So by virtue of being on both, it makes an awful lot of sense for
Yeah.
you to fill that position.
Sure.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yep.
Basically, you got to report every time. You got to be one of the agenda items.
Okay.
We didn't do anything this month, okay. That's fine. So that leaves brownfield redevelopment. And, yeah, it's a morning meeting and it's irregular, but
One other interesting thing about it that I've recently discovered is that the township manager is on that committee, so it's an opportunity to meet Frank Walsh. I've never been to a meeting, so I don't know how, they're certainly not as exciting as these meetings, but
well, maybe one approach is to give folks time to think about it. I mean, unless there's somebody who wants to raise their hand right now, I'd love that. But another approach is to keep an eye out on that BRA meetings, and when one pops up, see if somebody's got the energy, time, and interest to show up and do it. And if they keep going back, great. If something we trade off, that could work too.
Are they on the same days of the week, do we know, or are they just,
if my calculations were correct, that was this morning, the recent one that was canceled.
okay,
So they may meet the similar days that we do. I don't know.
okay.
I feel like I saw a summary of that in the last Planning Commission packet, because they also have liaison. And it was even a little summary of how often they have met. And if we could get that from Planning Department, Brian can get you that and send it around, then that can really help us understand what kind of a commitment it is. Super. And the other item I wanted to throw out for discussion is green themes. So back in 2006, when Ned was first serving on this committee, because we have this wonderful service of home TV that does all this really high-quality production, for a long time, the Environmental Commission meetings, if there wasn't a wetland use permit, then we would have a green theme presentation from some expert in some environmental field. And sitting next to a world-class university, that was never that difficult. But we had drain commissioner representatives and our wetland consultant and others that would come and give an address and we could interact with. And a nice way of helping people showcase their work, but also getting to meet in person the people who are kind of the thought that spurred this was we've got the Okemos Consolidated Drain Project going on Grand River with all the rework, and there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And having someone from the Drain Commissioner's office come and give us their slideshow about this is, what the drain project is, how much it costs us, what we had to do is how the capacity works, so, gives them a chance to show it off when there's not a bunch of angry neighbors. So, and gives us a chance to understand where they're headed as a drain commission. Because of our work on wetlands is, and everything is closely tied. But that's just my kind of pet thing. And what I'd like to do tonight is to invite everyone here to, if I could, I require you to submit one suggestion to staff for an individual that you think does something that is of real relevance to this commission and this community, and staff can reach out and send them an invitation, and if they take it, then they come and give us a talk and we get to hear about it. I think it works best when you've got a half a dozen names and you've got a year to plan things out. You can oftentimes get on people's calendars before enough. So that takes us, if there's no other new business that anybody would like to introduce, I feel like I'm doing an awful lot of talking here. We'll move to unfinished business. I don't think we have any of. Sorry, whoa.
I'm just wondering, you could advise us, the master plan, I think would be a good topic for a green theme. I'm not sure whether that should be, I don't know, I wouldn't assume it should be you, but maybe one of the staff persons?
Well, I was actually scheming with staff to do that this evening.
Oh,
Yeah, we've got it loaded up.
okay. Oh,
So I was going to do that under my liaison report. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so we don't lose track of it, back in December, we did talk a little bit about some potential wording changes to the nuisance ordinance. And I had offered a couple of possibilities, received some input from the commissioners, did a redraft of that, and I did not send that out to everybody, but I did send it, I believe, to the chair and to Leroy. So I know it's since gone to a couple of members of the planning staff for consideration. I think there's some concern about opening up the ordinance just for kind of a minor item. And one response back was maybe we need to look at just creating a new section for composting. So I guess that's kind of where things are right now, but I just want to kind of keep it before us so we don't lose track of it. Again, I did draft some potential new language based on comments from many of the people on the commission. And I guess at this point, maybe just need to talk individually with the planning staff to see what their concerns might be possibly before moving forward.
Sure. Thank you for reminding us of that. That makes a lot of sense to me as a way to move forward. And I'm starting to think that while I can give you guys an overview of the master plan, I'm qualified to do that. In terms of getting advice on ordinance revision, I think we will need to have planning staff in the room for those discussions. Okay. Ultimately, they would be the ones doing that. So if we can put a pin in that for a second, when we do go through the master plan, there is a bullet list of potential ordinance changes, several of which relate to this commission. So maybe we can together look at those and plot out how we can best tap planning staff's expertise in those areas.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Any other unfinished business? Hearing none, moving to reports and announcements, and we'll start with staff.
I shared a link to my staff update in the packet, and it was pretty much blank up until a couple days ago. There's quite a bit of juicy information in there. This is the hard copy, if you haven't seen it. Apologize for the paper.
Thanks.
But
Sorry, we'll eat it.
following up on what Tom just said, there is an example draft of a policy statement related to composting that Brian had shared towards the bottom of that. If you go to update-bit.ly, well, the link is on the agenda, but bit.ly update-Leroy, you can link directly to these hyperlinks. And I'm not going to go through all the detail, but there's a lot of exciting things happening right now, some of which you might find interesting or have questions about, and we can talk more about that tonight or at another time. And you'll hear some of this stuff in the subcommittee or the team updates, such as the energy team, the food team, and the green team. One of the exciting things is the Sustainable Fashion Show, and we're going to get some help from the Earth Club and the Oklamas High School students with that. In fact, they inspired the concept, and we got about 12 businesses locally. They're going to be exhibiting. We've got a stage in the mall. They're actually going to have models parading sustainable fashion, clothing, textiles, things like that. Emma Campbell is talking about creating a wardrobe made of invasive species. So we'll see how that comes out. But she wants to be there at our green team table as well, sharing information about invasive species. So If you've got any questions about that, let me know. A few other cool things, energy grants. We got notified about the EECBG grant to support solar panels at the North Fire Station. Next week, John will be talking about Solarize at the Green Dialogue. And if you haven't been to a Green Dialogue and you can squeeze in some time on a Wednesday morning, it's usually a good conversation. And then there are some links at the bottom of the staff update related to Peter Trezise, who looks like he might be our new council or trustee liaison. And he's also Bill has probably worked with him and can speak more. But there's a link to a news release. He was recently appointed as a new trustee, and you can read a little bit about him there, as well as a link to the Environmental Commission procedures. So if you're new on the commission, you might want to just review those procedures, and it'll answer some questions that you might have, might be lurking in your brain. So that's a quick overview, and take a look. If you have any other questions, you can always reach me 24/7 by phone, fax, or email.
I'll get my fax machine warmed up. Thank you for that update. Spurred several thoughts there, one of which being green grants. And as I was thinking about liaisons or people who are serving on what, Kendra is still a member. That was when she left. So, John, you're doing that. Who else is, remind me, doing green grant review?
Courtney has been on that commission, whether she
Right.
or that committee.
Yeah.
But yes, in fact, that's something we may want to discuss a little further tonight.
It makes a lot of sense to have a trustee in that group. That helps a lot. Yeah, so welcome, Peter. You got your first committee assignment.
The other piece of it is the funding that has been granted to support our climate sustainability plan, and we want to have a conversation at some point, perhaps this evening, about how we might make decisions on that $30,000 pot of money. Emma has some wetland signage that she would like to seek support for, and I'm sure some of you have some ideas for that. So maybe we can just put it out there if you've got thoughts on how we make that decision, or if that's something we want to discuss.
Indeed, indeed. So you're going to send that around? So you're going to send around that information?
I'd be happy to do that, yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to do my best to remember all of our committees, liaisons. I always start with the energy team because it's always easy. I don't know why that is. I think I'm biased in favor of you, John. What's going on?
Well, a couple things. I was able to get some solar.
Sorry. For the new folks, can you remind us, the energy team is kind of operates in relation to the Environmental Commission?
Yes, good point. The energy team was, established a long time ago, before I got involved, and it was always an informal group. It still is an informal group, and so people aren't appointed to the energy team, they just join. And it's a core group of maybe 5 or 6 people interested in both renewable energy and energy efficiency issues. And we do some programming. We advise township staff. We're, of course, involved with the climate sustainability plan and meet on a monthly basis. Our last meeting, before I talk about our last meeting, Leroy helped me get some permitting data from the assessment department. So I was able to kind of see how many new solar installations we had last year. And that number is 32, which brings us up to a total number of solar systems in the township. This is both residential and commercial, of 157. We do have a meeting coming up February 29th in the Township Hall, a regional meeting. We're inviting other local governments in the Tri-County area to come and share information about energy and other environmental programs. So we'll be talking about Solarize at that meeting. We'll be talking about the different solar installations at township facilities. Lansing's involved with EV infrastructure project, and there'll be some other things on the agenda. One thing we're hoping to do is to encourage other communities in the region to kind of do a solarized program and maybe do solar installations too.
Can you stop you one more time?
What's that?
I describe Solarize as a solar power Tupperware party.
Yes.
You meet at somebody's house who's got an installation and you learn how they did it and talk with other people and there's a contractor.
And that's a good description. And one key element of that is that after the Tupperware party, the participants are given about a week or so to decide whether they want to get proposals. And then they get another week or so to decide whether they want to make a purchase. Every person in the group that decides to make a purchase adds to a group discount. And so the minimum is 5%, the maximum is 15%. So for example, we had 4 meetings this past year, and we had 2 of the meetings, we didn't get up to 5%. With respect to the number of buys, but all of those individuals all got a 5% discount. And then we had one that got up to 11% and one that got up to 14%. So we got close to the kind of maximum, which was on top of the 30% federal tax credit. So those individuals in that buying group would have had the 30% plus 14, and so they're getting a significant reduction in cost. We have, at our last energy team meeting, we did some planning with respect to this year's Solarize program. And we're looking at having 4 meetings. The 4 meetings would be done in partnership with Absolute Solar, who has been our partner to date. But also we'll be partnering with Williamson Township for sure, and probably the city of Lansing and the city of East Lansing. So we're looking at doing these 4 meetings spread out from the spring to the fall. And all 4 local governments, ideally, will promote it to their membership to get as many attendees as possible and hopefully get a significant discount. So the first one is going to be here on April 1st. And then the second one is scheduled for Williamston on May 21st. And we're looking at a 3rd and a 4th meeting in July and September. And we're just working now with East Lansing and Lansing about the participation and their roles. So that's kind of, the Solarize program is moving ahead. This would be our 3rd year. And, we can see a steady increase in the number of solar systems in the township. But that's my report.
Wow, I'm always just blown away. That's fantastic. Tom, do you want to do something similar for a green team?
Sure, be happy to. Kind of the background of Green Team is very similar, I think, to the Energy Team, as kind of a core group of about half a dozen people who volunteer to work on green events for the township. Typically, we have 2 major recycling events that the Green Team is responsible to help plan. One, excuse me, one in the spring, usually in April, and one in the fall this year in September. And then to fill in, we hold different types of events at the farmers market, usually on a monthly basis from spring until fall. And those of you that got the handout from Leroy, on the right-hand side there are the dates that have been set for this coming year. Leroy already talked about the first event coming up on the 16th which is the Fashion Day. And I know Graham might have something he may want to add there as well in conjunction with that event. But our next big spring event is our Recycling Day at Chippewa Middle School on the 27th of April. We do have monthly meetings as well. Actually, our next meeting is tomorrow afternoon. But all are welcome to attend and participate. So I'm always looking for other people to help out.
Super. Questions for Tom, Green Team?
And can I just defer to Graham to
Yeah.
give a little plug for his side of the March 16th event?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a part of the STEM Ambassador Program at Michigan State, which is an extension of the National Science Foundation's overall national drive to focus on community engagement and citizen science. So as a part of the program, we're instructed to develop a outreach and engagement activity. So I figured it would be fun and exciting to partner with the commission and the good work that the Green Team and the Energy Team are doing. So this event is focused on youth engagement surrounding like solar systems, and then also those adults that are accompanying those youth. So we're planning on having a table where folks can sort of interact with these different solar kit models. So like a STEM kit, you can like build a type of solar system and then see how solar works at like a very basic and fundamental level. And then I'm also planning on having like informational posters that illustrate the number of solar systems that are installed in the township, as well as specifically detailing the township installations themselves and like the amount of power that they provide, the costs, some of those details that folks might be interested in. So that's the general aim of the event, is to increase awareness of solar and the different resources that are available to residents and the benefits that solar serves.
Great. Is there a linkage with the Energy Team, or you're pretty much developing it?
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been in discussion.
we have been in discussion.
Fantastic. Right on. Earth Club.
Okay, so there's a couple things that are going on now that it's warming up a little bit. So it's already been mentioned a couple times, but we're involved in the Green Fashion Day that's upcoming in March. There's also some involvement in the Bennett Woods Science Night. So I know they're hoping to have a stand there that has some Earth-related activity. I think traditionally it's been something about erosion, but they don't have an exact plan this year. Another thing is that there's a lot of work going on in the greenhouse at the high school right now, so they're trying to clean it up because next year they're thinking about reinstating the botany class that we've had at the high school. So they're hoping to get some of the area cleaned out there. A lot of cacti have been appearing in teachers' classrooms. Two more things. Okay. So we've also been working on, I think it's an electronics recycling day that's separate from the one that I think is scheduled for September 28th. They don't have an exact date for that yet, but it's something that's been brought up, I suppose. And then finally, there is some work for the upcoming Project Prom, which is not directly related to Earth Club, but it's sort of involved in helping to keep like formal clothing more sustainable and also help like underserved members of the community have access to that for like homecoming and prom events.
That's great. Nice. Thank you. Any questions on that? Moving to liaisons, has land preservation met recently? Do you want to give us some words on whether there are any current acquisitions pending? If there's, I got the sense that there might be a donation out there that wasn't a purchase, but I was foggy on that.
We did not meet in January.
Okay.
So, okay. So we moved that so that we did not meet in December or January. So the last meeting was like in November.
Gotcha.
So I don't think we have anything to report right now.
All right. Any other teams or liaisons that I'm forgetting?
Well,
Food composting, thank you.
yes, well, you know, I'll say Part of what I want to say is I think we need somewhat of a reset with the direction of the food to composting team. So the new members are aware. So for the former Commissioner Valerie Lafferty was organizing, I think similar to the other teams, monthly meetings around food to composting. And she is no longer on the commission. I think, over the last few months, things have fallen off a little bit just in terms of, the group meeting. And in part because it's winter, we have a number of gleaning efforts that group really spearheaded at the farmers market. And those, I think, went through some dates in October and, are on pause through the winter months. So, I think, if other, new members or other members of the commission are interested in being a part of that group, I think, there could be some opportunities there. We do have a group of interested individuals, but have not had, I think, there was some other participation on the team. I often was not able to attend the meetings because they were conflicting with my work schedule. So I don't know if, but I think the last meetings were in the summer. Is that correct?
That sounds about right to me.
It's been
Okay.
quite a while.
Yeah. So, I've been thinking about what direction we want to take with that. I don't think, we've had interest with, members of the community. And I don't think we want, I don't want to lose that interest in that group and that connection. So that is kind of the status of that particular group. In terms of food and food waste initiatives, I don't have any updates in particular around Meridian Township, other than, it's the gleaning efforts are planned to start up again come the farmer's market in the spring. Obviously, the farmer's market is still going. It's just the amount of food that's, available to be donated, and also some of the resources that we use some of the township resources to store some of the food that is used for hunting in the winter. So we don't have access to that cooler space in the winter. So that's another factor with the gleaning efforts. So that'll start up again in the spring. In terms of other updates, I do participate I'm on the steering committee of the Michigan Good Food Charter. A lot of that is statewide. So I will say there are a number of interesting legislations. If you all are statewide legislations around food that I'd say are related to what we do here in the Environmental Commission, because when we have a stronger regional and local food system, there's, that builds climate resiliency, of course, and can cut down on, food, I was going to say food waste, but I'd say the environmental impacts of our food system, including transportation of our foods and various other things. So there are some interesting legislations currently around supporting our cottage food businesses and helping them to some, proposed change in legislation so that our cottage food industry maybe is able to better move from doing cottage or small scale food productions in their own kitchen to larger scale. And then there are also some, if you all are familiar with the 10 cents a meal program in our schools, it's a state budget allocation of 10 cents per meal I believe it's for meals that include local produce. That actually goes through the legislative process every year. I think it has currently been introduced. So those are some state legislations that, impact our communities or really have the potential to, that are currently out there. There's also, I'll say this to our, to our school representative here, there is also a grant currently available. I don't know how much our school districts here would qualify or be competitive for that grant, because I think it does tend to serve more, underserved communities. However, there is a grant available to support our, collaborations between school districts and local producers or farmers to get more culturally appropriate and local and healthy food into schools. And so it's like $10,000 to $250,000 grants. It's with the Lake Michigan School Food System Innovation Hub. So I believe that is a part of MSU here and funded by the USDA.
Well, we'll just have staff draw up a grant proposal and get us some of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I can add, because I work in food waste professionally, that the food gleaning effort beyond the farmer's market is now using a platform called Food Rescue, which allows volunteers to sign up to go and grab excess food at a provider, like a Target or a Walmart, and drive it to one of their participating pantries, feeding centers. And it's interesting to see that there are multiple deliveries or pickups being offered on any given day. So basically, some of our biggest grocery stores are signed up to the system, so people drive up to their back door and they see it, and off it goes. It's kind of cool. So it feels like there's a lot of energy around that food capture, and the corporate world seems to be catching on, and nonprofits are intervening in that sort of connection space. So if you're interested, I can provide you details, foodrescue.org, you sign up and get an account. Yeah.
I also want to mention that the food collection at the farmer's market is remaining steady. People are dropping off their food scraps. We're filling up a couple of bins, a couple of the 96-gallon bins every couple of weeks. So there's still interest even in the dead of winter when the market's not operating. So.
And there's also some at the transfer station.
Yep, there's also a drop-off. And Tom Carey's been working on an online donation system. So if you want to participate in that, it'll be easier to donate online.
Cool. So if you could, please, Leroy, now switch us over to that master plan tab. This is the current draft of the proposed revised master plan. The township is required every 5 years to update its master plan. And this has been out for public comment and review, and is now before the township board. It's a 5-year plan for what we're going to do. If you want to just slowly scroll through those succeeding pages there.
With any luck.
Is the mouse working?
It's working now,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So keep going, please. The heart of the plan is these,
Back?
Yeah, please.
Okay, no problem.
The heart of the plan is these goals. And you'll see, I'm not going to go through the bullets, but you'll see that it's organized by sort of the residential portions of our township, the commercial portions, recreational portions, et cetera. And I encourage you to look through this. There's a lot to like in each of these, not just in the residential, but in the township businesses. And public services, a lot of this stuff is very environmental. But the potential intensity change areas are the Okemos, downtown Okemos, Hazlitt Village Square, and Carriage Hills that are expected to redevelop. And Hazlitt's going ahead, Okemos is a little bit stalled, Carriage Hills hasn't gotten going. This goal here, strategic growth and environmental preservation, is really our bailiwick. So when this is adopted whatever version by the township board. This is kind of our mandate for what they believe should happen to the environment. And a lot of it is land preservation, a lot of it is our public spaces, but some of it is wetland regulations, et cetera. So these are all pretty broad. If you go to the next, this is the one I wanted to bring your attention to because this is kind of the to-do list. And they're not in any particular order, these aren't prioritized, but if you look at something like the landscape ordinance to create low-impact design standards, it's something the Environmental Commission has done. We were given a draft, a review of our ordinance with this intention by a fellow who's now working in East Lansing doing this stuff. And we haven't kind of gotten that across the finish line. Farther down, about the sixth one says, develop standards to require electric car charging stations in new commercial development. Well, I would certainly, I know that's something that the energy team has looked at and could contribute to. Similarly, update alternative energy generation ordinances. Then a few more down, refine the build-out analysis to take into account natural features and unique shaped lots, so that planning staff looked at the unbuilt, the vacant property in the township, and just using some simple calculations of density per acre allowed by right, how many more houses should we be expecting in that eastern third once it's finally starts to develop? But they haven't done it in real great detail, because if a property's got wetland on it, well, how many houses could you then fit on it? So it starts to get pretty complicated, but it's basically a GIS operation. So I think it's something that we might at least like to keep track of and contribute if that's workable. Fourth from the bottom, consider a purchase of development rights program for the land preservation. Well, that'll probably be the land preservation board that gets handed that one, but it'll be interesting to keep up with it. Green burial is the next one that, again, started with some folks on the Environmental Commission and is now kind of its own thing. So those, I just wanted to bring to your attention. This is publicly available. It's not super easy to copy and paste, but you can print it. And I suggest that because some of those are ordinance changes, as we were talking about earlier. So if we're talking about our nuisance ordinance and how it treats compost, or electric vehicle charging requirements in mixed-use plan unit development, that's kind of a basket of ordinance changes that we could take on and would require, I think, direct expertise of planning staff. So in terms of laying out a schedule for when we might tackle those things, their evenings are precious to them as well. So if these are things that we could form study groups around that are more flexible in their timing and can meet online because they're not a quorum, I think we're much more likely to get the planning staff engaged in those conversations in that way. So I'm throwing that out there as different ways we might attack some of these things that I believe the township board is going to say, go forth and conquer. And it's a 5-year plan, so we're not supposed to get them all done this year. But, you know, we can work on them. So I'm not, I mean, we can talk more about this evening, or we can cogitate and come back and try to start working up a plan of attack next time. I'm happy either way.
Bill, you know, to create a bicycle pedestrian plan to complement the pathway master plan. I always thought of the pathway master plan as being a bicycle pedestrian plan.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Our existing bicycle pathway master plan is a map. And it says, this is where we've got infrastructure, this is what it looks like, and this is what we'd like to have. And it's a wish list of, you know, here's all the stuff we'd like to build. And it's getting built. The Lake Lansing, MSU Lake Lansing Trail is, you know, way high up on that list. But there's no document that goes with it. It talks about best practices, it explores some of the nuance like you have in the master plan. And many communities have more fully developed pathway plans or non-motorized transportation plans. East Lansing is currently out for revision of theirs. And planning staff are interested in fleshing that out. And one of the most immediate impetuses for that was that last year, 2 years ago, the planning staff submitted an application to the bicycle-friendly communities program of the League of Michigan Bicyclists. And by virtue of filling out the application, they give you bronze. No, but we actually stack up pretty well because we have a really well-developed trail system. But in order to get up into the silvers, bronzes, good, silver, gold, you have to actually have a more comprehensive plan that says this is how we're going to go about doing this. And these are the principles, and this is the guidance that we give to, applicants who want to build a shopping center. Here's the kind of stuff we want to see, without baking it all into the ordinance. Because plans are notional. So our climate sustainability plan, notional, it's got some, goals and objectives, it's got some discussion, it's got some, so that's what that bullet
Okay.
point means.
Gotcha.
And my guess is that will be mainly carried forward by the Transportation Commission, since that's their bailiwick. They're a little short-handed, so anybody who's interested in bicycling, you're more than welcome. They meet, 4 times a year, Transportation Commission?
Yeah, I think that is discussing whether they want to continue the Transportation Commission. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in, I would suggest chatting with Brian Shorkey or Tim,
Schmidt, yeah.
Chief Planner. Tim Schmidt, yeah.
Yeah, they had a couple of people, key members depart recently for family reasons and things, and so it basically serves as advisory to the Department of Public Works, to the Township Board. Doesn't have any dollars, it doesn't have any authority, but it is a public forum for the discussion of transportation projects in the township that aren't so hot that they have to come in this room in front of the Township Board. How about that? Projects get a first run through at the Transportation Commission. So they've been seeing the MSU Lake Lansing pathway designs for years. They've had input on the redesign of the intersection of Lake Lansing Road and Tower. I don't know if you've seen it, that quality area, they replaced that signal, the road department did. The Transportation Commission has been really active in lobbying for road conversions. So Central Park Drive used to be two lanes each way. Now it's 1 lane each way with a center turn lane and bike lanes-ish. And many other roadways in Meridian Township have been converted, and if you haven't been following, there was a public meeting last week discussing the conversion of Mount Hope Road from Okemos to Hagedorn. Again, 2 lanes each way, turn it into 1 lane each way with a center turn lane and some bike lanes.
I think
There was a lot of public input.
I think they're doing that. I mean, I think East Lansing is doing that down Hagedorn, so
Yes.
now we're trying to
Yeah.
get the Meridian connection of that.
As someone who's really interested in bike-friendly communities, pedestrian-friendly communities, maybe one thing to consider, if the Transportation Commission is dying out, maybe an informal committee already exists, or maybe one could be formed with people that are interested in, similar to the energy team or the green team, might just be a little bit more accessible to people, something to consider, because we don't want these ideas to, Brian could use some help with for example, the bike-friendly community application every year. And he might welcome an informal committee versus a more official commission. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. A committee that can participate in drafting, getting that master plan off the ground is going to be very valuable to the planning staff. And frankly, the bike-friendly community application, not only do they give you bronze for just submitting, but they also tell you what you can do next time to get silver and gold. And that's silver or gold, because that means you just put that into your plan. This is what we want to do. This is the kind of education efforts that are going to work. This is the kind of engineering things that are going to work. So it's not like you got to make it all up out of thin air. You've already, whoever does it has got all the information they need. It just needs to get coalesced and made relevant to this community.
So, so I just want to try to understand. So you're saying that we can look through the master plan, and then if there are things that we are interested in or think that the commission, the environmental commission, could potentially address for the master plan, we can bring that like to the next meeting or something, and then.
We'll get it on agendas.
Get it on,
That's my hope, is to lay out agendas for the rest of the year where we have specific topics that we want to try to address so that what guests can be scheduled.
Okay.
On the other hand, if the connection to those is going to be through an existing team, we don't need to take commission time to do it, to provide that liaison, but we can at appropriate moments when there's a draft EV charging ordinance, right? We can talk about that here and make a recommendation to the planning commission, and it can go then to the township board. But a lot of places, they do like to, if you're going to make your board dive into ordinances, make sure it's substantial so that they're not spending their time crossing i's and dotting t's, and that it's well baked. So it's, yeah, there is lots of stuff.
Does the planning commission have a timeline for when they plan to work on some of these things specifically? So we have to try to, like have some discussion before they work on it, or how does that work with?
We were right in the middle of doing that when Commissioner Wazinski became trustee Wazinski, and our composition changed, and Peter Trezise was named trustee. So that, we haven't done our work plan yet, but I promised by the principal planner that it'll be on our next agenda.
Okay.
And hopefully the next time we meet, we'll have a better idea of how the planning commission would like to proceed on these.
Yep.
Anything else that anybody would like to share with this group?
Can I just ask, Iman, is there a particular thing that you got excited about looking at this?
Well, I did see something about the wetland, reviewing the wetland ordinance then, I think. So that was one thing. And then I think there was also about the land preservation advisory, is it the funding, I think? Yeah.
There is, now that you say that, earlier in the master plan draft, I believe there's an objective to evolve the direction of the land preservation program from mainly focused on acquisition to ensuring long-term care. And I know that was a little bit, there were voices who would love to continue our acquisitions, but the way the funding works, it would be a heavy lift, is my understanding. So if you can go back and look at that and make sure that there's language in there that you're comfortable with, that would be another bit of discussion.
Okay. Yeah, because we haven't actually specifically discussed that, as far as I know, at Land Preservation Advisory Board meetings. So, yeah, I'll bring that up with Emma and then see, or with Jamie too, the chair, and see if we can put that on like an agenda for the next meeting or something. Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else? Hey, we might get out of here in under an hour. Please. Last chance for public remarks. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Wow. Is this?